Hello, welcome back. As promised, some more videos. In this case, about the A1 Mark II from Sony. I have had it for about 2 weeks now, but I'm going to talk a little bit about pre-capture and the burst mode way that it works, because I think there are some tricks there that some people might not have noticed. And yeah, this video might also be valuable for a9iii owners and maybe in the future newer Sony cameras if this video is older than maybe half a year or a year and we get more cameras that have these features. So yeah, Sony, of course, we already had burst mode. That's nothing new, but Sony built in some newer tricks there that you have an extra button. So there's an extra button on the camera, basically in the front of the camera over there in the middle, called the C5 button. It's over there. And you can press that, and that controls a speed up, a burst mode to make your burst go faster or slower. It depends how you set it up. And you can also place that button in different locations. That gives you kind of interesting options that you can on the fly change the burst setting. So go from slow burst to fast burst, for example. It's available on the a9iii and on the A1. Pre-capture is a feature which I don't think I have to explain. It sort of pre-captures, it takes pictures before you fully press the shutter, so that you can, for example, if you want to photograph a bird flying away, that when you're too late, then you can click when you see the bird flying away, it will pre-capture a few pictures. Now, Sony has implemented that in my opinion, the best way, probably, not to sort of make this into a fight, but Canon only supports it for JPEG, which makes it, in my opinion, not that useful. Canon has implemented it quite okay, but it has a fixed sort of length, so you're always stuck to a certain amount of pictures that you need in your buffer. And Sony did it in quite a flexible way, and I think there are some flexibilities that some people didn't even notice, and I want to point them out today. Maybe there are more. These are the ones that I found after 2 weeks of fiddling. So let's get going. The first thing that I'm going to do is go into the menu and turn something on, and I will explain why. I'll use the back of the camera and not using an HDMI because that might change the way that the camera behaves, or I don't think it's needed because I think you can probably read it quite well. And we don't have to be in the menu that much. That's not what this talk is about. I will probably later today make a few more videos about some of the setup that I've done. So the first thing I want to point out, and let me also go to the side view big so that we can see it, and I can also see it myself on the monitor. So if I'm looking that way, I'm sorry, I'm just watching a big monitor so that I can see it, and you can see it, of course, also. So the first thing I want you to go is to go to the yellow, which is the setup, the last setup, the suitcase, and look for an option. And of course, now I might have forgot where it's left. Oh yeah, display options. And if you go into display options, there's one called remain shooting display. Now turn this on either always on or shoot only when display. And I think personally I will put it on shoot only display, but it's default on not with displaying. And what it does, it shows you a bar, which I will show, how much your buffer is being filled. And when I'm showing you the pre-capture, it's a good way to indicate in what mode we are. So I will put it on shoot only, and I will show you what it does. Now, if I press the focus, you can see, half press it, you can see this line pop up. And if I shoot pictures, you see it go down. Now I'm in single shot, so it doesn't do anything. So let me put it in a burst mode, and I will put it right in the burst mode fast. And you can see the buffer. You can see how much the buffer is still there. Now, let's first go for a logical setup before I show you what we can do. So, for example, I will put it on low, and let me also then, I think I can make myself a little bit smaller, although, well, maybe it's not needed. I can move the camera a bit. So, yeah, so this is kind of a normal setup. I'm now in low mode, so if I press the shutter, you'll see that it goes quite slow, but I can press the button in the front, so the C5 button, which is again over here. So if I press it, oh, I'm sitting in a little bit of an awkward position, of course. if I press it, you see it goes into this burst mode. And you can also see the symbol. And now you understand why the bar is kind of an interesting option to have. So this is, already kind of how they describe it, right? So you can, I'm now writing to two cards, which is also quite nice. But you can see I can press the button, see that my buffer is full, and decide to press the button if I see something and repeat that. And you can see the symbol change into the speed button symbol over there. So one thing that you might not have noticed, and maybe everybody figures this out, I have no idea. But if you already press the button, you can see that it already pops up even before you start. So in a way, this gives you an interesting option that you can have two settings at the same time, because you can program what the speed of the C5 button is. You can put it on any of the burst speeds, so up to 30 or 120 on your A9. But I put it on 30 because that makes more sense in this demo. But my normal mode is on low. So I can, of course, start in low and stay there. I can start in low and then speed up. But what you can also do is already press the button, and you can see it if I press it and before I shoot, and it will start shooting right away in that mode. And that's so basically you kind of have two modes built in. If you press the button, you're already in high speed mode or whatever mode you set. And if you don't press it, you can have a different speed. So that's nice. And I think another thing which is nice, which I think is probably a bug, if you put it in single shot. So let me quickly put it back in single shot mode. And now I press the button on the front. It gives me an error. I don't understand this. I don't understand why Sony doesn't go into burst mode in this case, but they don't. But there's an possible workaround. What you can do is put it on slow. On low, sorry. And now if you're fast enough, and or even if you take two pictures, not a big deal. But if you single press, you see it will take one picture. Sometimes if I hold it a little bit too long, it will take two. You see? But if you do your normal thing, you will take one picture. If you press it, you get low mode, right? Because you're holding it longer. Here, one. And of course, I can also decide to press it and then press the other button in. Or I can even say, well, I want to start in fast mode. And you can also put this button. I'm now putting in that you have to press it down. You can also in the menu put it on toggle mode, which is another possibility. I would not do that, but if you find holding that button a bit too much, then you can do that. So that's something that you might not have noticed, that you can actually already press it and then start shooting, and it will go into burst mode right away, as you can see. So you have kind of now three options: single shot, slow, fast, during the thingy, or single shot, fast, right away. So that's kind of, I think, maybe an interesting position to let your camera on all the time. I'm considering that myself, so never using single mode, but always put it in low burst mode, because I'm my normal press would just shoot off one anyway. So I think that's a good way to do it, especially because of the next feature which you can combine, which is pre-cap. So pre-capture, it is I think almost mandatory to have a button for to turn it on and turn it off. So I've put it on my C1 button, so you can see it has pre-capture on and pre-capture off, pre-capture on, pre-capture off. So now the bar comes into play while I turn it on, because now if I press, you can see that the bar actually goes down a tiny bit. You see that? And that's a pre-capture doing its thing. Now, of course, if I turn it, because you set it on time, and I think I put it on half a second, would be my guess. So if I turn it to a higher speed, so let's say on high plus, of course, if I now half press it, you can see that the pre-buffer is going way deeper, right? More of my buffer is already being filled because I put more pictures in the buffer. And of course, you can see the pre-buffer symbol pop up. Now, this is not special. I'll put it back in low. Now, this kind of a pre-capture does, right? So you can focus on something, it starts taking pictures, and the moment she blinks, she won't, but the moment the little doll blinks, I can sort of press a button and it saved multiple things. One thing which is handy is probably to also put it in in burst mode. So if I go back to oh, hold on, hold on. Oh, forgot what button it was. Sorry. So if I press go into the what I've recorded, what is handy is to put it in uh, grouping mode. So you can set it up that bursts are being displayed as a group, which is kind of nice in this case, because if you take a picture in this mode, in this, let's say, slow single mode, it will actually make a little group. So in this case, what I did, it recorded 3 pictures. Let me do one again, just so that you understand what is happening. So I will press it. It's now doing pre-capture. So since it's on 5 frames a second, half a second, it probably puts it 2 or 3 pictures in the pre-buffer, in this case. And if I press one time, you will see that if I go into what I've recorded, you can see in this case it recorded 3 pictures. So 2 of them in before I started, and you can see it's pre-buffer. I think it should display that somewhere. There you can see it. Pre-buffer symbol, pre-capture symbol, and on the fourth one, there's one. That one, it doesn't. You see? 3, 2. You can kind of see what's happening. So you can see what was in pre-capture mode and what not. Again, I'm just talking as we go. Hopefully this will be useful. So that's a pre-capture. But what is lesser known is that, of course, this again works combined with the boost mode. And that's kind of interesting. So, of course, now I'm on low mode. But let's assume I want to do, of course, the idea would be, let me go back to an example. This is a bird. I am in some kind of a pre-capture mode. I shoot, and I can still go into quick mode. But of course, that was not as part of the pre-capture. So the pre-capture was still slow. But what is interesting, especially if you combine this again, is that you can actually already press this button while you're pre-focusing. So if I pre-focus, you see that it's now to start recording images, right? So in this case, in this case 2. But if I press this button, you can see that the bar going down, because now it's actually pre-capturing on 30 frames a second. And now if I shoot, you can see it has recorded, let me see, probably like 60 pictures, but let's see what it actually did. You can see in this burst there are, where does it display? 45 pictures. And again, if I go through them, you can see at some point it will turn off the pre-capture symbol. There it goes. So this was the one in pre-buffer. You can see it over there. And the next few shots were the one that I made during my normal holding down the shutter. So this means that there is a very handy function again, which I'm not sure if everybody sort of notices it, that you can already press this button even if you're doing pre-capture, right? And you can clearly see it in the bar that it goes down way further and quicker than if I don't do this. You see? Of course, I'm now picking in low mode because I think that's probably a good compromise. Also, for example, if you're taking pictures of somebody, and you have it a single mode, they might just close their eyes. So if you hold it for like, I don't know, half a second, then you have 2 or 3 pictures, you have a little bit of room to play. And since they will be put in the group anyway, it's not a bad solution in my opinion. And one thing that you can do, which I'm now just making up live so that you can see how my mind is working. So let's assume this is the case in this case, right? So I'm on pre-capture. Let me turn it off. So that's why the pre-capture is important. So now I'm turning it off. So it doesn't do pre-capture, but I'm taking a little bit longer press. So 2 in this case. Now, of course, if I go back into the archive, you can see that I have indeed a small stack of 2 pictures. Right? And I can, if I have time, quite quickly, because I'm shooting 2 cards anyway, delete one of them. Well, the way that you can do it is actually kind of interesting. You can actually lock the picture. And for me, something other special happened. Maybe I can show it because it's interesting, and you can tell me if it's interesting for later in a video. But because I also set it up that if I lock a picture, it will automatically be sent to my Lightroom. But we can talk about it later. So let's lock one of them. So lock the first one. Then I go out of this burst, and I hit delete. Now, if I delete this group, it will delete everything except for the locked picture. So now I've deleted it, and you can see I've now only one picture and one picture left, which I just recorded of the burst. Oh, this is the burst. You can see the stack, and there you can see the picture I kept. So if you want to use this, I'm not saying you should, but if you take pictures of something you by accident get 2 or 3, and you don't want that, you can just go quickly in, select the one which was best, and delete the rest in this way. Now, since I put it on a lock, it should start sending it over the cloud. I can already, maybe at sort of the end of this video, give you a pre-hint. So if you turn the camera off or it goes to sleep, and then you turn it back on, I'm not sure why this is a trigger moment, but it seems to be the way that Sony decided to do it. So every time it tries to find contact with the internet, you see that it's now trying to connect to my Wi-Fi. This is not using my phone, by the way. Of course, at the end of the video, it would be fun if it does it. But within about a minute, it should start sending it to the cloud. So we'll wait for a minute while we are waiting, and I'm trying to figure out if I forgot something. Of course, I didn't test this, but if the camera is still correctly set up, within a few seconds, it should try to quickly start to send it. Or it doesn't, and then we will figure out later why. Oh, there it goes. You see? It's now syncing it to the cloud. Cool. And now it has synced this picture that I've just looked. So this picture is now sent to the Sony cloud and then automatically sent back to the Adobe cloud, and then it will be in my Lightroom. So in about a minute, if I open up my Lightroom on my iPad or on my computer, I will see this picture that I've shot. So it is actually kind of a nice sort of workflow if you want to take a picture using the burst or the single mode, lock a few of them, delete the rest of them, and the ones that you've locked will automatically be sent to your Lightroom, which I think is fun. But I wanted to show this video a bit about the pre-capture and the burst mode, because I think especially the already pressing in both of these modes the button and to have it behave that it does is actually kind of a nice way, because Sony decided to, I would almost argue, think a little bit deeper about it, how to be able to use it. And you can kind of see how this works. The only thing I would actually prefer, but I think the low mode is kind of a workaround. It doesn't give an error if I press the C5 button, but it actually goes into burst mode. And the other thing I'm wondering about, and leave a comment if you agree with me, I don't fully understand why we don't have, I would say, in even slower speed, so maybe 2 frames a second, or something which, let's call it progressive speed. So what I don't understand, I never thought about it, but if I normally keep, of course I have to go to single mode, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So if I'm in single mode, I don't understand. Of course, we take a picture by half pressing it, if you don't do back button focus, which I think on these modern cameras it might be a good idea to reconsider back button focusing, but I know this is almost like a holy war. But I would say it's maybe not that needed anymore. So I do a focus like this. Normally, if I keep the button down, nothing happens. I don't understand why, if I clearly keep the button down in single mode, why it doesn't decide, okay, maybe after half a second, maybe you want to go into a burst mode, and then slowly ramp up. Or make one of the modes that you can actually ramp it up from, let's say, 1 a second, and then it goes to 3 a second, 5 a second, 10 a second. So if you would hold it down because something is happening, it will slowly start speeding up. That might be a very interesting option. And also solves this workaround that if you press this button in the front, it doesn't give you an error because it tells you you're in single mode. And you can't do pre-capture because, well, you're in single mode. There might be an interesting way to always have it on, let's say, 1 frame a second. That's kind of maybe a bit too slow. But let's say 2 frames a second or 3 frames a second, where you would never have this small press and actually have it speed up. Just something to consider if your Sony is watching this. So thank you for watching, and hoping this helped somebody in some ideas about how to use the burst mode and the pre-capture mode on the new Sony camera, the Sony A1 Mark II or the a9 III. I figure this has all the same options, and also the behavior is exactly the same. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one, where we are going to probably talk about the dial setup, because I think that's also something interesting that many people have missed. And I think when you get a new camera, it's also always a good moment to figure out if you want to change the way that you set up your camera, or how you use your camera. Because you have new features, you have new dials or new functions, and you want to figure out how to incorporate it in your normal setup. So yeah, thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.